Hey, Jonathan, how are ya?
Bebop and Donnie, baby. I am great.
Good. I think I sound funny in my head because I've got a head cold, but you don't think I sound funny, do you?
Funny comedic or funny
Yeah,
strange?
yeah. I wish I was funny comedic.
You're
But no, I guess it's
comedic.
just
You're a comedian. I'll give you that. I'll give you that. A good one.
okay. At times, at times. Hey, so this week, audience, we are going to talk about a couple of things. I'm going to dive into and unpack voting, not to politics, but voting and where we're going in the future with regards to age groups. And Jonathan,
Yes,
what are
sir.
we going to talk about with you?
I'm going to talk about. I can't remember if we touched on it, but I was in Nashville for the weekend because one of my books was up for an award. So I'm going to dig into that.
Excellent. So great. So stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Woo.
And we're back.
And it's
Welcome.
good to be back. Woo.
Yes. So, Jonathan, we've all been doing some traveling lately.
Yes, I was in Nashville on the weekend. It was the first time my wife and I have been to Nashville. And the reason being is I write crime fiction. And the last book I wrote in 2023, Drums, Guns, and Money, was up for a Shamus Award. Now, the Shamus
Oh.
Award is cool because it's put out by the Private Eye Writers of America. And it's a big honor because when I was looking for agents and I would pitch my Lou Crasher series, he is a rock drummer turned unlicensed PI, but it's the same thing. He's a private investigator. Across the board, agents would say, you know, the PI thing is over. It's kind of done. I can't sell it. Nobody's into that. And that pisses me off. Pisses all of us off. So it's nice that this organization, shout out to Private Eye Writers of America, actually gives some shine to us PI writers. And it's a big deal. Like you get the... anyway, I was a finalist in the category of paperback original. Drum roll, please. I did not win. However, I completely won. Like the weekend and all the gifts I was given, not
Gifts?
physical gifts. Not physical gifts, but first of all, my siblings and their spouses were there. So
Oh, fun.
shout out to Cleta and Jay, Gary and Oslin. And, you know, I was kind of apprehensive at the beginning because, you know, we're going out there for a conference and, you know, this award show, and they say they want to come and support. So now you kind of think you have to entertain. I really don't with my siblings. In fact, they got there 2 days before Sonia and I. So,
Because I think they entertain themselves pretty well. I've met everybody.
oh yeah. This Brown family knows how to party for sure. So they showed up 2 days early, and they just, you know, they painted the town red downtown Nashville. We get there, and the awards ceremony was on the Friday, and they came out from their hotel. So let me back up. We were about 20 minutes by Uber outside of town in this big, ridiculous resort, which was, we ended up calling it the landlocked cruise ship because it was so massive. It was massive, and they give you this map, and it's difficult to read. And I remember asking a couple staff members how to get here and there, and they go, just get the app. You need an app for the hotel you're staying at.
Is it an app with a map?
It's an app with a map and a
Yeah.
cat in a hat. So actually, I normally love reading maps, but I looked at it and it was kind of screwy. So I just used my own sense of direction, and it actually worked. I was shocked. So, okay, smash cut to the award show, and here's something that this was the first how I felt like a winner. So my category comes up, and my name comes first of the five because it's alphabetical, and my book comes on the big screen, and you know, I was told people cheered, but I don't remember because I was pretty nervous.
Were
And
you
I looked
really?
Well, not about winning or losing, just well, you just kind of get. I've been so content with the nomination, but then you get there and you think, well, what if I win this thing? You know, that's the danger of a friggin' contest. You know, when you enter, you sort of throw it away and like, okay, I entered, move on, and then you get the email, hey man, you're top 5, and you're like, okay, the nomination is the award, and then they call your name, you're like, oh shit, I might win this thing. And I remember looking over to my sister who was to my left, and she looked pretty nervous. And then I looked to her husband, same thing, my sister-in-law, Oslin, then my brother, and Sonia. And I the first thing, I was overwhelmed with love and support. Oh. And then I realized, shit, they look more nervous than I am. And I didn't win, and just the air coming out of the balloon from my little squad, as Taylor Swift would call it. Exactly. And then I got a big hug from my sister, and she just whispered in my ear, we are so proud of you. And it hit me. Excuse me.
That's okay.
It hit me because my parents weren't there. Mm. But I felt like they were. And it was like a ton of bricks that my family would fly all the way down to Nashville for this award. And then my brother just gave me a bear hug that nearly broke my back. And so I just thought, I did win this thing. You know what I mean? And we weren't even going to go to this thing. But then when we got the email, Sonia said, well, you should go. And then I go, no, I can't. And she said, no, but what if you win? I want to be there. And then, so she's the one that she invited my siblings. And then it became this party and all that stuff that I've already gone over. But I was very moved, and it's probably good. I probably would have been up there trying to make a speech and just bawling my way through it if I had won. And then outside of that, there's so many contacts that I made, not just with agents and future, moving up the ladder with my writing, but the narrating as well. Mm-hmm. I got some good narrating connections, and just had great food and partying and all that stuff. So it turned out to be, we've probably gone to 6 or 7 of these, and I'd say this is definitely the best one. Definitely the best one.
Okay.
And what it is, it's a conference called BoucherCon, and it's every year, always in a different city, and it's for mystery writers. And that's it, just mystery writers. And readers. Mm-hmm. So readers, writers, agents, and stuff like that. And the first time I went, I thought, it's going to be all these introverts and it's going to be boring. And as it turned out, mystery writers, crime fiction writers, are completely crazy and a lot of fun. It's almost like we retreat to our cave to write our books, and then when we get together, we just go crazy and just go nuts, and a lot of very clever and witty and funny people. So, yeah, it was outstanding. Have you ever been to Nashville?
Well, let's talk about this for a few minutes, because I think you touched on a lot of things, so we need to unpack it. Yeah. Because, and excuse me, the garbage, good timing, because the garbage man is here, because it's Wednesday, and we never record on a Wednesday. Oh, no, is it Thursday? What's today?
Thursday.
It's a Thursday, but the holiday pushed it back a day, so great.
That's exactly what happened. Another mystery solved, Donnie baby.
Thank you, sir. I'm glad you're the mystery author. But to talk about it, so let's start with the other. Yes, Nashville, I've been there a couple times. The food is amazing.
Okay.
I hear the music. I've been to a couple of music places, too. Like, there's a lot of bars that actually have a lot of live music over there, too.
Yep.
It's a great city to visit. It gets cold in the winter and gets hot in the summer. I remember that. But I also wanted to talk briefly about the hotel you stayed in, because I have stayed at one of these places before. Okay. They're very common in the South and in Texas and places over there, because there's these massive hotels that basically they're for families, I think, because you can bring your kids there. They probably had a water slide, a roller coaster, and a Ferris wheel, or something close to that.
You have been there, exactly. Yeah, they had the lazy river and the water slide and all that stuff. And you're right. They push them out to where there's so much land. So I guess they can build for cheap. And
they probably have their own zip code.
They are monstrosities. Like, they're it's insane. And this thing was completely covered in glass. So and they had lots of palm trees and stuff in there. So you almost I started referring to it as the terrarium that we were in.
Yep.
But it's over the top. Oh, and okay.
Yeah.
I was told, I don't know if this is true, but they said it's the biggest hotel in America that is not a casino. That's what they were.
Okay. Okay.
So I said something like 3,000 rooms or something crazy like that. That is nuts. And it's a convention hotel. So there were so many conventions going on.
Yeah.
And
And
families.
it's easy to get lost in those places. I remember.
Oh,
And there's probably a few
yeah.
restaurants, at least 2 or 3, if not 4 or 5.
Lots.
Right?
There's lots, yeah. And I just tended to give myself a lot of time to get. Oh, sometimes you make a wrong left and you got to double back, but generally I just followed my sense of direction. I got where I needed to go.
Okay. Well, that's another part I want to talk, because I want to acknowledge the fact I've been in there, and those are crazy places. So
They are crazy.
yeah. Anyway,
Everything is there.
the other thing was, I did notice that you were tagged a lot. So I saw at the were you on a panel when you were there too, or was this part of the presentation?
God, oh, man. So I was on 2 panels, one on the Thursday when we got in and one on the Friday. And both panels went very well, especially the Friday one. Now, I don't know if you know of an author named Harlan Coben, but he writes the Myron Bolitar and Win series. And if you go on Netflix, there's he's got a great deal with Netflix that a ton of his stuff has been made into these TV movies, I guess, but they're all shot in England, even though he's an American writer. So I'd love to see what that contract was, because there's got to be 5, 6, 7 of those things, and just based on, because he's written so many books.
Right.
So I was on a panel with him, and the topic was sports in mystery writing.
Huh.
So right off the bat, I'm like, well, shit, I've never written a sports themed mystery, but I have characters that have athletic backgrounds. So I thought, well, that kind of gets me to the table. But I was pleasantly surprised that the moderator, who was super cool, she brought up my Angelo Dundee book and my Lombardi book. And afterwards, some people said, oh, I want to get a hold of those. Where do I find that? So that was cool. And Harlan Coben, the place was packed, standing room only, and a line up out the door because he was there. Wow. And just, like I said, he's a witty guy, and he was just throwing up these softballs, and I was just hitting them out of the park. So we got this kind of tennis match going back and forth. There I go, mixing my metaphors. But the crowd was loving the back and forth. And, because a lot of times these panels can be kind of dry. You can just talk about the writing process and how often you know what I mean?
Writing. I'm a writer. Yeah.
Right. But so we made it entertaining, and we were kind of jousting back and forth to the point that people came up afterwards and said, so how long have you and Harlan been friends? And I got so much heat off of that people were saying, oh, I just downloaded all your books, and I can't wait to read this. Yes,
wow.
From the panel. So, again, just win after win after win without actually winning the contest.
Are the panels on YouTube, or is there any place that anyone could see the panels if they wanted
I
to?
believe they are on YouTube.
Okay.
If you go to BoucherCon, I'm not going to fucking spell it. Oh,
that's all right. We'll look it up and see if we can add it to our notes. It's okay. Yeah. It's all right. We'll look it up and see if we can put it on the notes.
BoucherCon.com. BoucherCon. I'm sure they have stuff on YouTube, because I think they do take that stuff. Yeah.
Okay. So another question, since we're talking about this. I mean, you said you were nervous when you were waiting for the award, but were you nervous on the panel? Because it sounds like you were fine on the panel.
No, because I was so adrenalized from being at the conference again, because we weren't going to go, and it's like you just found out last minute, oh shit, we're going to Europe. You know what I mean? It was like that. I'm going to this thing that I love, and actually happened to be get a little of attention from the nomination. And because we've been to a bunch of these, there's a lot of writers, but most of them further along than myself, that we now have very good relationships now. Yes, so it's like, this is like a really cool thing that I love to do, and now I've kind of climbed a couple rungs up the ladder now, and it was just a blast. But those panels gave me such a bump, for sure.
Pardon me, sir, but you were tagged in quite a few. I saw you tagged on quite a few different authors taking pictures with you. So to maybe the humble pill you took might wear off a little bit. So,
well, we tend to, if we're not panelizing, and that's my word, we tend to gather at a bar and conversate, and then some people take pictures.
Okay, well, you can't help it if you're part of the paparazzi and part of the part of the machine.
Yeah, but I would throw one other thing out there. To whether you're an aspiring writer or whatever it is, if you enter a contest and you get all fired up and you don't win, like this one woman said, like, wow, if I were you, well, she didn't really say it to me, but I heard her say, God, if I was in Jonathan's shoes, I would be devastated, but he's taking it so well. And I know that the person said to her, it's because you're not Jonathan. Like I said, before I got there, I was on cloud nine because of the nomination, because my family was going there, because I got to wear a cowboy hat and boots again.
I will find that photo and actually put it on above us. Okay. So I hope you look good in that one.
Oh, yeah. Well, the hat makes it. Okay. And then that's a good thing because a lot of people said, yeah, you should be wearing hats, Nashville, and it just.
You love your cowboy hat. You know you do.
I fucking love my cowboy hat and my boots, too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the other part of it I wanted to talk about, because, I mean, you tough guys, I'm not a tough guy. You're a tough guy. You are a very sensitive person. And I think one of the most, I was so happy for you because you were so excited that your family was going to, because, I mean, once you shared with everybody that this was happening, of course, Sonia's like, okay, let's go. Because you weren't going to go. And then all of a sudden, I think your sister and brother and their respective spouses decided we're all going to go, right?
Right.
So it's kind of a party, isn't it? Because I've been with the Browns before, and it's not like you sit around reading books, no offense, when you go out of town. Because your sister, Cleta, is always the one making all of us dance.
Oh, yeah. So, don't read the books when we're together. Read the books when we're separate.
Yeah. So, exactly. And you got a little emotional when you were speaking about your parents not being there. But again, I believe that they were there.
Oh, 100%.
If your family's there, all that binding spirit together brings everybody together.
It does. And I get emotional because, and at the time, because everything just kind of stops and the sound goes away. Because a bunch of people said, oh, we were at the other side of the room. Did you hear us screaming when your name came up? And I didn't, because all sound went away when I was just in that little tight group with my family. And I just saw that, holy shit, it's almost like they wanted me to win more than I wanted to win. And I almost I thought afterwards, I need to console them and tell them, I did win. Let me explain it to you. Over at the bar. I'll explain it over there.
But the energy's so high. And the fact that you're being acknowledged, they were so proud, proud of what you've done and what you've accomplished. Yep. So that's a celebration too.
Oh, it is. And people have said in the past, you're really lucky to have that relationship you do with your siblings, because a lot of people don't have, or they might like one sibling but not the other, and that kind of thing. So we've been blessed, and honestly, we've always been close, but we got closer when my mother passed. And then even closer after Dad went, because then you're just like, okay, now the three of us are the last of the holdouts, and so let's make. And we've made a bigger effort to get together, because we're in different cities, I'm in a different country from them, and so we try to vacay together when we can, and you've been part of that. And it's good times, as you know. I
am very familiar with the Brown, how should we call it, the Brown congregation when they get together, because they don't mess around. Nope. When we all met in Palm Springs with your sister and brother, it was crazy, and crazy good. You know what I mean? It's a great vibe. It's an amazing thing. And I think I'm very happy for you that you have that, because not everybody, like you say, has that. Not everyone. And then the fact that you've actually bonded and come even closer after your parents left, I think that's pretty amazing. So again, please, I'm sure you relished the moments that you had.
I did.
And they create
I
other
did.
great memories, which is really good.
Oh yeah, I absolutely did. So, go ahead.
So I have to say congratulations to you. I'm very happy
Thank
for you as
you.
my friend. I'm super happy for you. You deserve it all. This is opening up so many more doors, I think.
It already has.
And maybe I don't know. Is it motivating you in some way to get back to anything specific or working on projects?
Yes.
Or
What a beautiful question. That's why you're the best
I know. That's why I'm
podcaster I
paid
know.
so highly for this job.
Exactly. Wait, you're getting paid? Yes.
Anyway, you were saying?
Yeah, I wrote a book, standalone, which is different from, and it's a new character, and I don't know if I probably brought it up on our old podcast, but I had a shot at partnering up with this really big time agent in New York, and we had great conversation on the phone, some emails. A bunch of time went by when I was battling cancer, but once I came out of that and I gave him the book, he actually turned it down, so that kind of sucked. But what I found out at this convention through a close friend of his is that the door is actually not closed. It was just he was overwhelmed with work and other things at the time, and with the right project, I could probably still go to the dance. And the way that usually works is if agent says no, they might say, I'm going to pass on this one, but feel free to send me something else. I didn't have that conversation with him, but at this conference, this woman sort of said, that is how it is. If you have something else, he will read it. So that was huge. And then there's another agent that has agreed to read this book that I've written. And I'm actually back to my 3 or 4 hours of writing a day since I've been back. Like I've just definitely.
Were you off that for a little while?
I was. I was just. There was a bit of a slowdown, partly because.
Well, you're traveling a lot.
Oh yeah, the traveling as well as narrating an audiobook. Shout out to author Lisa Tolles. So I just finished that book, and I definitely don't write as much when I'm narrating because I'm kind of into the characters of their book, and then writing my stuff. So I usually write a little less, but that audiobook is done, and now I can get back to this book, and I'm just fired up from Nashville. Woo!
Yeah, and it's a door you thought was closed was only kind of pushed closed a little bit. There's actually a crack in there.
Yeah, where I thought it was a no, it was just a not now.
Exactly. So I think I think that's again kudos and congratulations to you, of course.
Thank you.
I mean, that's amazing.
And that
sounded like an amazing experience.
And that came from the nomination too, because the word got to him that book was nominated. Yep. So there you go. You
Great.
Never know. Yeah, man.
Anything else you want to add about that one?
Real quick. So have you been to New Orleans as well, or no?
I have not been to New Orleans.
So the heyday of New Orleans was Bourbon Street, which goes many, many, many blocks, and it was all. So it's famous for live music and great food. You can still get great food, but Bourbon Street has been sort of the live music has moved away, and it's more DJ, and college kids are there. So it's quite sad that it's not the scene that it used to be.
Right.
So Nashville, Sonia and I were going to compare it to Austin and see. Well, let's see what their downtown is like. Right. Downtown Nashville for live music is way over the top. It's 4 times what New Orleans was. And I mean, miles and miles, and just back-to-back live music.
Yep.
And I just thought, if I was running through there in my 20s and playing drums, I might still be there,
Well, you know what? You probably take a couple sticks with you and just jump in somewhere if you wanted to. There's plenty of places.
It's fun. Yeah, I that definitely went through the old. I was warmed, a little bit, but it also told me like, no, you know what? I love my memories, but writing is where it's at for me right now, 100%. So then that even felt amazing, that I wasn't pulled in 2 directions. I was like, oh, I love this, and I'm glad I did that for 30 some odd years, but this is a new thing. Yeah. So that's all I want to say.
Okay.
And I approve this message.
Okay, well, good. So I'm going to throw you a little curveball because speaking of music, I was tasked with bringing the music spotlight this time.
Oh yeah,
So
baby.
I wanted to tell you something. I don't know. Now, here's. I'm going to date myself, and I'm going to show because you know how it is. Every generation has their thing. Did
Yes.
you have a CD collection?
Oh yeah. Yes.
Okay. Did you have one of those books where you flip through all of your CDs?
Yes. And then on
Yes.
one side,
So
you
here's
could take
how
the, you could take the cover and put it on, slide it on one side.
Yes.
The CD yeah.
You
I
have the
still-
artwork, you'd have the liner notes, and you'd have your
Yep.
CD, and you'd flip through. And I went through mine, and I have
Okay.
literally like 4 of them, and they're 200 each.
Damn.
And it's like, okay, darn. I mean, if I could play these, I would pull them out again. I don't have a car that plays a CD player. I don't have a CD player. We had portable CD players back in the day. I
Yeah.
mean, all that stuff. I mean, they were
Right.
great. So, I think that's how this music came into my head again. It's always been around there, but
Okay.
there's a group that I was really smitten with, and in the States they didn't have a whole lot. In the UK they actually had quite a bit more fame. But I'm going to just hit this real quick. I don't know, you know this.
Oh yeah, yeah. I definitely know this.
This is Soul to Soul.
Yes. Yeah.
And
that's right.
they were a pretty amazing group in the UK. They had a couple of hits here.
I thought they were American. I did not know that.
They are not. They're actually not. So I'm going to turn that down. But they're a pretty amazing group. And,
okay. Can I say? Let me guess. 85.
Close. They had a few. They were. Really,
I mean, that song?
That was
song?
like 89.
Oh fuck.
80.
Really?
No,
that
actually,
was-
you know what? I'm not. They were 89 because they were. They started earlier than that. They had a bunch of stuff. They only hit the States. They had this released actually in the UK first. It took a
Okay.
couple of years to get over here. So you're like 87, 88.
Okay.
And
Because I do remember because when I was a bouncer, that song was happening, blasting through. Yeah.
Well,
yeah,
it was
yeah.
kind of a classic too, and it was one of their biggest
Yep.
hits that were taking place. So, what's kind of cool about it is that they started in England, in London,
Okay.
and they were actually founded by a guy named Jazzy B. And he actually put these groups together, and he brought them all together. And they had the "Keep on Moving" and "Back to Life," which was their big song. But they basically only hit once in the States, and they had a couple albums. What's kind of cool about the way they did it, they had about 5 releases, and they did Volume 1, Volume 2, Volume 3, Volume 4, Volume 5.
Okay.
But they were actually biggest around the 90s. The early 90s, very 90s. So you're right, 87, 88 to 90.
Okay.
But what kind of interesting is that they were kind of Jazzy B was this guy that brought this group together, kind of mixed influences.
Yeah.
And they brought together. They didn't want to sound American, but they also had a Caribbean flavor to them, and they put rap into it, and it's an amazing album. And all their albums, I listened to quite a few of them today while I was at work. They started in North London, and they actually did. I don't know. Have you heard of something called Sound Systems?
No.
Sound Systems, where when it was kind of where in the neighborhoods, the neighborhoods where there wasn't a lot of money going around, they actually would take a lot of speakers and power them up, and they would do sound systems out in the street, so everyone would enjoy their music. And this is kind of how they got their start.
Yeah.
So they were kind of in I don't want to say the ghettos, but the ghettos of North London and Kingston, where they came from. And this guy Jazzy B actually created this from this group, and they were very much. If you listen to their music, there's a lot of different influences there, so you can get a big mix. You know, the poppy thing was something they did. The one I just played for you, kind of poppy, but there's actually a lot of stuff where you hear a lot more influences from the Caribbean, which is kind of cool. And it was basically. You know, one of those groups that this song has always stuck in my mind. I always loved this music, and
great.
the fact that I had all these CDs, because I have a few of their discs actually. So luckily we have a thing called Spotify, and you can actually listen to a lot of these. So I highly recommend this group.
Well, a couple of things there. With the CDs. My vehicle is 2009, so I have a CD player in my vehicle.
Do you really?
And I actually still have.
Okay.
I have 3 of those CD holders, and I dusted those. They were covered in dust, And so when I'm not using my auxiliary cord to do Spotify music off my phone, I switch over to CD.
Right.
And it actually has a cassette player too. But I have no
No
cassettes.
way.
I have no cassettes. No. But
Well,
I had a cool.
okay,
I had a cool.
I'll tell you
CD
another story about cassettes later.
But our good friend Jill, who I call Jilly BBB, she has a program on her laptop. So if you have something that you don't find on Spotify, she can burn that CD to digital.
No.
And then you. Oh yeah, she did it for me. So she'll do it for you. You
Well,
gotta ask her nicely.
I just wanted to bring this back. You know, these are people. This group actually was something I did a little deep diving with them. Their music
Yeah.
is so. I think it was, I don't want to say groundbreaking, but it was definitely different because it wasn't what you were hearing in 87,
Yeah.
88, 89.
Yeah.
It's got that influence. It's got an R&B influence to it. The voices, Karen Wheeler, who is the lead vocalist on there, she's
I was
got a
gonna
beautiful
ask.
voice,
Okay.
who went on to her
Yeah.
solo career. You know, an amazing, amazing group. They were very forward what they did. They did win a Grammy, you know, which is great. Their album peaked #1 in UK. This song actually did a great deal in the States. It's poppy, but it's not poppy because it's kind of a little sexy jazzy too in there too.
Yeah, it's definitely some R&B. Like it's for the dance floor for sure.
Exactly. So,
But the
anyway,
cool
so
thing
that
about the
was-
sound systems is I didn't know that was the term, but when we were in Jamaica 2010 and we're driving through some town, there are a couple of towns that had just both sides of the street were just old school speakers, and they were just blasting. I mean, they were rattling the windows of the little minivan that we were in, and it was nuts. So yeah, it's kind of cool. You said the
were people
Caribbean-
congregating around when they were playing
Yep.
music, or
Yeah.
yeah. So it was a very
Like a
social
square.
thing. Sorry, let me turn this down. It's a very social aspect to it. This
Yeah.
what they
Yeah.
did. So it actually was really a great way for the neighbors to get together and people to share music, and
And
people
it's
who
so
created
old school.
music like Jazzy B. That's
It's
how
so
it
old
got
school 'cause
started.
You can see them running cords for miles trying to get each speaker to hook up to the next speaker. It was- that part was entertaining too. Wow, that's cool, man. All right.
So let's take a little break. We'll get right back. I'll have a glass of
All right.
water, and I'll be right back. And you'll be right back too, right?
Hydrate.
Hydrate.
You like good books? There's a rock drummer living in Los Angeles named Lou Crasher. The cat doubles as an unlicensed private investigator. Can you imagine rocking 1 minute and fighting crime the next? I'd give you more time to imagine, but I gotta move this commercial along. Oh, the books? Well, the first one was The Big Crescendo, followed by Don't Shoot the Drummer, which I think is good advice, and 2023's Drums, Guns, and Money, a bona fide Shamus Award nominee. The Lou Crasher mysteries are written by Jonathan J. Brown. Do yourself a favor and read the first 3 so you're ready for Crasher's next adventure, entitled Blood on the Snare Drum. We are back, Donnie, baby. I got a song for this next segment. Let's get political. Political. No?
No. No.
Sorry.
Well, yes, we can get political.
Okay, we can redo that, but for now, why don't we just jump into what you got?
No. Okay, no, we're going to keep it because I want it. I want everyone in the world to hear it and see it eventually too.
That's right.
So we'll have to remix it and probably yeah.
Okay.
So just this kind of got me intrigued because you know there is a very important election coming up in November. And what I thought was interesting and what I dived into was the fact that the populations that we have, you know, we're talking about millennials, Gen Zs, Gen X, boomers, and now this new group called Alpha. Do you know Alphas are actually 14-year-old and below? They're actually, I don't know who this is that's naming these people or these groups, but
Yeah.
they're saying that Alphas are the next generation that's coming out.
Okay.
So I thought it was interesting because I've also thought about over the hundreds of years that I've been on the planet and how different, how the country supports different political viewpoints like Republicans and Democrats. So we're not going to talk about the specifics of the candidates right now. What I was interested in is about how age groups affect the result and the outcome and how it's changing. Because if you think about it, for a long time, you know, there's a very conservative factor, a very liberal factor. But what's happening is, you know, traditionally boomers have been categorized as very conservative. for the most part, unless of course you're on the East Coast or the West Coast.
Right.
For the most part, though, most of the boomers are leaned towards the conservative side. What's interesting, though, is that millennials. Are you a millennial?
No, I'm Gen X, actually. I'm actually on the border of Boomer and X. I'm on that border.
Okay. Well, what's super interesting is that millennials are going to be creating one of the largest groups of the voting population going forward. And basically, I'm looking at here some stats. There are approximately 72.19 million millennials in the United States right now.
Okay.
Comparatively, are just 70 million baby boomers. So we're kind of lining up a little bit. So it's interesting how that can actually take and change that. There's 65.8 million Gen Xers, 68.6 million Gen Zers, but the millennials make up basically a quarter of the population next to boomers.
Holy mackerel.
Now, here's another thing. Guess what? Boomers are getting older, right?
Yeah,
and
exactly.
boomers will eventually not be here. I'm just saying that they're aging out. We're aging out, and so that population, although it's growing, and I'm also told that in future years, baby boomers will be a huge population that the rest of the country will have to take care of because of their age. But also the next thing that's coming up is that because of this amount of millennials, there is going to be a huge sway into politics. And it's very interesting because millennials have a very different perspective on how they vote. And again, I'm generalizing and I'm taking some things, but basically they're quite interested about specific topics. One of the first ones is actually climate change, believe it or not. Abortion, gun policies. So those are the three big ones for them because that's where they're seeing a lot of things affecting. And another thing is that, and I'm generalizing for millennials, is that they're also a little disenfranchised from politics because they don't see a lot of things changing or happening.
And they don't feel represented,
Correct. So they don't feel, and they don't feel like they actually have a voice, or they're seeing that, that's where a lot of the apathy comes in because they say, well, why vote? Because what does it matter if I vote or not? Because when I vote, even if I don't vote, nothing changes. So what's interesting, though, is that they are also seeing their future influence and I would say power to change a vote or sway a vote to a different result. So it's quite interesting that, as these boomers, I'm a boomer, as we get older, the population will decrease. Millennials will also have children or are already having children, and they're going to increase. So it's kind of interesting to kind of throw it out there. Maybe we can talk about that a little bit, about how we feel like this going to change. Because, we have a perspective on the West Coast. We're pretty, I won't say liberal, but we're quite, we're not as constricted with conservatism as the rest of the country is.
Right.
But it's kind of interesting to take a look at this because the leaning, and I don't want to throw politics on Democratic or Republican sides, but there is a lot of leaning to Democratic thinking.
Well, I do remember,
I guess I'll say encouraging.
In 2008 when Obama was running, his campaign manager David Plouffe, at that time I guess they were millennials, but he saw that young vote as very key, and he went hard. He used the internet and went hard after that populace, and they were I don't know the numbers, but that was the first time we'd seen someone really get out the young vote. And, it helped push him over the edge. And I think the Republicans after that didn't see that coming. And then so now, after that, when Obama ran the second time, then they started saying, we got to get that young vote. I don't know what they did, but it was massive for Obama in 2008. Absolutely.
And the other part of that is that, these younger voters are also seeing these very old politicians. Because Biden is 81. I know we stepped aside for Kamala, which is, a good thing. And then Trump is 78. And people can't relate to these old white guys anymore.
Right.
And the thing is also this millennial generation is very diverse.
Yeah.
It's not one color anymore. It's very diverse. So they're actually, there's a lot of things. I'm actually quite hopeful for it because it could mean the change to a lot of things, not just the result of the election, but also people getting back into being interested in politics in a positive way.
Right.
I think that it's important that, because they're disillusioned, they could see that they can have an effect.
Yeah.
And I guess, what I'm interested to see is, like, as this happens, what the outcome of this election will be determined by whoever votes most. But here's the other thing. The kicker is that boomers tend to vote more because they have always voted. Mm-hmm. And it's more of, as you say, getting the younger voters, the millennials, to actually go out and vote.
Right, right.
So
boomers
what are you
also
standing for?
They have the history of realizing the power of the vote, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they have the mindset of, well, if I don't vote, I don't get to complain. And young people used to complain without voting, but now they're waking up. I'm not saying that woke is the way to go, but they're noticing the power of, I should get out there, which is kind of what the young people in the 60s did when they said, let's anti-Vietnam and stuff, right?
Yeah. So I'm hoping there's something that will actually bring and sway people out there. But I guess I have a question for you, too. What, if you could wave a magic wand, what do you think it would be, or what do you think could make people start to vote again? Because I was thinking about this, like, okay, I know it's important. Everyone should vote. Everyone should vote. And I know that some people don't vote. So, I mean, is there anything that you think
Education.
we could do?
They have to be educated in school. Because if a kid says, well, what's the point of voting? I've only got one vote. Why should I vote? But they're bitching about something. Then I think in the classroom, that teacher can say, if you got enough of you together, we might do this with school lunches or whatever the topic is, and let them know that they do have a voice. But it starts with education. I grew up in a political family, but at that time, all of my friends understood what was going on in politics, where I grew up. And I remember I was 27 years old when I moved here, and I would attempt to, I know I'm going to sound really fun, but I would go to parties and try to talk politics because I was into American politics since I was moving from Canada. And what happened with the 20-somethings at that time was they'd say, well, what are you first? Are you Democrat or Republican? And I'd say, well, I just want to talk about the issue, but, I'm an independent. And then once they knew, it was kind of like, we don't really want to talk about that. What's the point of voting? So they kind of had this apathy about it. And I thought, okay, so their households, politics wasn't really talked about at school. Maybe there wasn't a government class or a whatever class. I really think the education, and show them, like, if you want power, you go and get it this way, but you don't just run to your parents with your hand out and ask for power or tell your boss you need that raise. You got to study up a little bit. But it's a scary time with all this fucking fake news on the goddamn internet. So now you get conspiracies here and you get bullshit there and you got Russian bots coming in. So I don't know. I'm glad I'm 58 years old because I don't know what's coming.
Well, here's the good news. You also, your group also has a huge influence. And the thing is, like, I think it's important to get the buy-in because, again, another thing that I've read about is that a lot of the millennials don't really choose a position. They're very hesitant to speak about, like, I'm not Republican, I'm not Democrat, I'm waiting to see. So, there's a lot of people waiting to see what happens. So I'm very excited about the prospects about this election now, much more than I was before. Because there's a lot more energy. Positive energy, which is great. So I'm hoping that positive energy can swing those people that at one point were apathetic to voting and seeing that it could make a difference. But there's another thing. A kid that I read about, he goes to Berkeley, and he lives in California. So obviously he was saying, what difference does it make where I vote? California will absolutely swing blue and be a Democratic state. But what about all those kids in the middle of the country who are my age, who... Like he was saying, like, it can't be just Taylor Swift telling people to vote for somebody.
Right.
It can't be. You know, because that, you know, and then people get mad because like, well, Taylor Swift's not going to tell me who to vote for. I'm going to vote who I'm going to vote for because of the candidate.
Yeah.
So I'm also excited to think that people are much more interested in these candidates who are currently running. Obviously, for the new candidates coming in, because there's a lot, as I said, positive energy. There's a lot of youth involved, which I'm very excited about.
Yeah.
So you know, there's you know they're mostly, these millennials are very pragmatic because they want to see what these candidates have to say.
Yeah. And I get their frustration that to buy a house is way too expensive, or to, you know, the cost of living is so high. So I can see like, hey man, I just got here like 17 years ago and there's nothing for me. Like, what am I supposed to do? I can't even get out of my parents' basement, type of thing. So
they're also kind of mad at what we've left them. So I have to say,
and that's happened with every generation. But you're right. This is we're at the height of, we as boomers getting blamed for fucking up the planet. So I kind of think, okay, do that, use that American grit, roll up your sleeves and clean it up, but don't keep whining to us about it. We went with the information that we had at the time, and greed has always been there as well. Corporations will always be corporations. So get out and vote.
Exactly, get out and vote. But and again, just to like close it up too, what's interesting is that this boomer generation I've been talking about, by 2050, they're going to account for 2.5% of the vote. So I believe that this election, well, that's a few years from now. You know, but it's like, you know, because obviously the population will have died off, and the influence that's coming. So I'm excited about the potential for excitement in participating in voting, because there's been such a long time where we were not interested, not engaged. So I'm encouraging. I guess I'm going to try and think up ways of what I could possibly do to encourage people to vote, other than this medium that we're using right now. Please go out and vote. Your vote makes a difference.
Are you all right if you go out there and you push young people to vote? What if they all voted against the issues that you stand for? Would you be like, fuck, what did I do that for? Or are you like, I don't care. They're young and they're out there and they're taking a part in the community and society, so I'm happy?
That's a great question. And you know what? That's democracy. So, you know, the 50% plus one is what makes it happen. You know, that's what changes the vote. So again, as long as there's participation, I would like, and then this is in a perfect world, you know, that's a perfect world where people are actually educated, making educated choices based on the facts that they believe in.
But like a politician, you're sort of dancing around the edges of my question. Nicely done.
I wouldn't be happy with the outcome, but I think I have to believe, and I do swing more towards the liberal side. I just do. You know, I believe in Roe versus Wade. I believe in gun control. I believe in all those things that I think are sane things to believe in.
Yeah.
So I think I would be unhappy if things didn't go in a way that were productive for the country.
But if we look at at least since I've been here, we've pretty much swung back and forth administration for administration.
Yeah.
There's a couple of one-termers like Senior Bush, Trump, but often it's Democrat for 2 terms, Republican for 2 terms. You know, it's an interesting pendulum. Yeah, you know.
Listen, if we really want to dive into politics, we can talk about the Supreme Court and aging them out. We could go into a whole bunch of things. And okay, let's talk. Okay, now that you did it.
Oh, I did it.
Because I was looking at the age of certain people, like some senators. Yeah, Pelosi has been in office for a good long time, but she got some stuff done. You know, I have to say she got some stuff done. And yet there are other people who hold offices and haven't done a darn thing, who just got rich and got to be a fat cat. And I'm talking about both parties. I'm not talking about one or the other, because unfortunately it's a very monetarily driven.
Well, it's like that tenured professor that you just can't get rid of. Like, why regardless of performance, you know?
Yes,
that's not
right. I think, you know, this voting thing goes back to how we've gotten to the point we are with the Supreme Court now. Those were appointees from the previous candidate who placed them in, and they're there for life. So, I mean, if we really wanted to jump into nirvana and what we could change, it would be the age of the Supreme Court justices.
Yeah.
It would be the
and that one
voting
should be
the way we vote.
That one should be. I don't think I need to bring the mayor of everywhere in, but it should almost be.
You might.
That you every 10, like a driver's license, every 10 years you got to re-up for your spot on the Supreme Court, and we put you through it. You know?
I'm all for that. The Electoral College. Let's talk about that for a minute too.
Okay, that is another episode.
Okay, so no, there's a lot of triggers in there that
Yeah.
definitely would need to be addressed. But I think
100%.
let's start with
Young people.
younger people.
Yeah.
You get out there and vote. I'm encouraged by what I'm seeing because there is a lot of interest. There is a lot more momentum. Interest
cool.
in what this next election will decide and where people want the country to go and where we absolutely have a part in it. Each of us individually. If we don't, then what's the point? So, my soapbox is creaking a little
done,
bit. So,
Bebop and Donnie baby.
So keep your eye on it. It's going to be interesting to see where this is going. I'm very, as I said, there's a lot of engagement, which is good.
Right.
And we all have an influence on the vote at the end. So get out there, vote.
And Don approves this message, don't you, Don?
I do approve this message. So let's take a break and come back. Okay. Yeah, we talked.
Yeah.
There's a lot more information out there. So, I was diving deep on this one because it was very interesting to see what's coming up. But I also, speaking about what's coming up, I want everyone to know that we're still out there hitting the pavements and seeing some local businesses that are doing good things and doing great things in the South Bay. So we'll have something soon with a place where this is going to be in front of that. So we'll leave it as a surprise for you about what we're going to. So that was a horrible teaser. Horrible. Yes. So we're getting, Jonathan's going to be doing a little bit of traveling soon. So he'll be out of pocket. People like to say out of pocket, but he's going to be, international soon. So
the mayor of everywhere has been called overseas. So
apparently, so to share and reap his wisdom on the rest of the unknowing masses.
A lot of problems out there. A lot of problems.
Yes. Okay. Well, so let's close it down.
Okay.
It's okay. But thank you for joining us this week, Jonathan. Thank you for sharing. Congratulations again on your nomination.
Thank you. And thank everyone out there for the support. And just keep reading and keep listening. And voting. Get out there and vote. There you go.
Keep reading and voting. So that's it. Good. So don't forget, you can find us on Instagram at Life As We Know It Podcast 123. We're on YouTube at Life As We Know It, Jonathan and Don.
And Don.
Of course, and Don on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. If you're interested in coming onto the podcast, we would love to have you. And don't forget, we would love to share anyone that has a community group or an organization that's doing great stuff in the South Bay, local. Even if you're not local, we'd love to know and talk to you about that. So until next time, Jonathan, good seeing you again.
You too, Donnie baby.
Okay.
Bye, listeners.
And
bye.
Bye.